From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. We start with breaking news. The CIA has concluded that journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed on the order of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The CIA has reportedly examined a telephone conversation in which bin Salman's brother, Khalid, persuaded Khashoggi to go to the Saudi consulate in Turkey to obtain marriage documents while assuring him that he'd be safe. The call was reportedly made at the behest of Mohammed bin Salman. And this news comes just hours after friends and family of Jamal Khashoggi gathered in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for his funeral prayers, and over 6 weeks after he was killed in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. Funeral prayers for Jamal Khashoggi were also held at the Grand Mosque in Makkah. Another service was held at the Prophet's Mosque in Medina after the dawn prayer earlier in the day. Moving on to Mexico, nearly 2,000 members of the Central American migrant caravan arrived to Tijuana on Friday, and a reported 1,500 have already put their names down on a waiting list for asylum requests. The list is being handled by the migrants themselves to be then shown to U.S. immigration officials. They have asked that 150 requests be processed per day, as the wait to be called up could take up months. Most migrants are staying in shelters, and many are reportedly unaware of the U.S. government's repeated attempts at stopping them. There are still more migrants expected to arrive this weekend.
We are all waiting for a number to request asylum. When we are given a number, we wait. I don't know how long it will take to be called up so that we can go to talk to immigration officials. But we are told it could take up to at least a month or two.
We will request that U.S. authorities allow, in the name of God, 150 people per day for request hearings to make some progress because, let's remember, these people are suffering from hunger, sunburns, dehydration. They have no money, they don't have anywhere to sleep, they have no shelter. The shelters here are full. So the idea is to create awareness because we are suffering.
And as the main body of the migrant caravan continues to arrive in Tijuana, workers on the U.S. side are reinforcing the border wall with barbed wire. This as an attempt at stopping migrants from entering the country illegally. We now go to our correspondent in Tijuana, Alina Duarte, for more information.
More than 2,000 migrants from Central America have arrived to the city of Tijuana, here in the border between Mexico and the U.S. Buses are still arriving, and we must say that some residents have not been kind with the arrival of the Central Americans who are escaping from violence and poverty. With racism and xenophobia, migrants have been received also with solidarity, a lot of it, but it's important to say that the mayor of the city, Juan Manuel Gastelum, has been one of the persons who are repeating, unfortunately, the same speech used by Donald Trump's administration and most of the Republicans that criminalizes the people that are looking for asylum. We don't have to forget that Donald Trump has sent almost 6,000 troops to fortify the U.S.-Mexican border and has threatened to close the border entirely to keep out the migrants.
We thank Alina for that report. Moving on and speaking at the Ibero-American summit currently going on in Guatemala, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has said the migratory phenomenon requires solidarity and regional coordinated solutions.
The migratory flow that is happening in the region and its humanitarian derivatives also requires solidarity and regional coordinated answers. That is the reflection that I can, as a government leader in Europe, share with all of you. We need regulated parameters that guarantee the rights of migrants and that permit our societies to receive the benefits of an orderly migration. Believe me, I say this to you because I am well aware of the magnitude of this challenge. And above all else, not forget the lessons learned from history to prevent the advancement of speeches that exclude people.
Bolivian President Evo Morales has been awarded an honorary doctorate by the Guatemalan University of San Carlos. Morales has received his honor in recognition of his defense of social movements and indigenous people. The Bolivian president is in Guatemala attending the 26th Ibero-American Summit. He also met the indigenous leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Rigoberta Menchú.
This honorary degree is not for me, but for social movement in Bolivia. I will not achieve it without my indigenous brothers in Guatemala, brothers of the social movement, the labor movement, of all the social sectors. When people join forces, nothing is impossible.
The Cuban foreign minister also spoke at the summit and reinforced his support for Venezuela and Nicaragua.
As we face growing threats from imperialist supremacy and unilateralism, as well as a revival of the Monroe Doctrine from the U.S. government, it's essential that we maintain the principles that make Latin America and the Caribbean a peaceful region. We reiterate our solidarity with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Republic of Nicaragua as they face coercive measures, manipulation, and foreign interference.
Students in Colombia clashed with police during violent protests over the government's education funding.
Police used tear gas to disperse student marchers who took to the streets to press demands for a boost in education spending. Riots ensued between security forces and young protesters.
Right now, universities need about 3.5 trillion pesos to be fully operational, and 16 trillion pesos should be poured into infrastructure, free education, internships, and so on. Alternatively, most people simply cannot afford to pay private university fees.
Student protesters also converged with other demonstrations against proposed tax.
Government has to remove the tax measure which seeks to raise value-added tax on basic food items and products. This is an economic assault on families who will have to dig deeper into their already shallow pockets. The most vulnerable sectors will be hardest hit, while big business benefit from tax exemptions.
To many through the country, this tax reform is unfair, regressive, and will only fill the revenue void with the poorest people's money.
The government's inaction is more than evident. They do not have a plan B. We have said that bankers have to pay mining companies. People who hide money in tax paradises such as Panama have to pay, but Colombian families do not have to accept this level of state corruption.
Indigenous organizations from Embera de Choco also joined the protests, demanding respect for their land and their lives.
Indigenous people marched today to say no to the killings, even in the face of continuing threats. Young people came to the university and told us they want to protest. So here we are, defending our territorial rights.
Meanwhile, some 91 legislators are asking President Iván Duque to hold dialogue with the students about what they say was excessive use of force by police.
On Thursday, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro delivered the 2,300,000 home as part of the government's public housing program, the Gran Misión Vivienda Venezuela. Speaking at a special event at the Cuartel de la Montaña, President Maduro asked members of the country's communes to continue supporting what he called an architectural revolution. He highlighted that within the next year, the government hopes to deliver 700,000 more homes in order to reach their 3 million goal.
From this day until December 2019, we will deliver 700,000 more homes. We will reach our 3 million houses goal. And all of these homes are being provided through the Homeland ID card for those who are in the most need. These homes are going to single mothers, to young families, to workers, to entrepreneurs. As part of our 2025 Homeland Plan, we will deliver at least 5 million new homes, if not more.
And social communes in Venezuela are helping citizens learn farming skills and at the same time are supporting the nation's food sovereignty. Backyards in various neighborhoods in Caracas are being used to grow fruits, vegetables, and even raise cattle. The project is part of an initiative called the Great Agro-Venezuelan Mission, launched 2 years ago by President Nicolás Maduro. It encourages city dwellers to use their backyards for productive purposes and to be self-reliant in the face of ongoing economic attacks from abroad. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Friday marks the one-year anniversary of the disappearance of the San Juan submarine in Argentina. Relatives of the missing crew members have urged the government to continue the search for the submarine. President Mauricio Macri led a tribute ceremony in Mar del Plata, the place where relatives of the 44 missing crew members still gather to demand answers. They also want the authorities to be held responsible for the disaster.
What can I do? I'm disappointed by what the president has said. He said they are to look for the sub, but with what? Our Navy doesn't have anything.
And teachers in Brazil are giving the proposed school without party law a failing grade. The initiative seeks to ban political opinions and debates from the classroom.
Educators are resisting attacks on their freedom in the classroom, calling the move censorship. The so-called gag rule not only prevents the expression of partisan ideologies at school, but it advocates dropping subjects linked to gender or sexual orientation. It also includes strict supervision of teaching practice. The proposed law is based on the premise that family values take precedence over school education in relation to moral, sexual, and religious education.
He knows that teachers, public schools, and university students were the ones that stood up in defense of public services, of the rights of the population and the poor. This war on education goes hand in hand with their assault on the poor.
Outside the Congress, where a special commission debates the proposal, conservative pressure is mounting against the nation's educators. Teachers like Luciana Pereira are opposed to what they believe is the criminalization of students who protested against the neoliberal government in Sao Paulo. Then, police came into her classroom and she was subsequently fired on her last week of work.
The students were known by the police because of their protest action. They were detained, searched, and threatened, even with guns pointing to their heads. Since then, I've become a victim of political persecution in my region. I was fired last year, then rehired, and because of the law, I am not allowed to resign. I was fired last year and then today again.
Deputy Ana Carolina Campagnolo, while having expressed support for Bolsonaro, is now calling on students to film the indoctrination of their teachers. Students are also standing in support of their teachers.
I am making a counter-proposal, which is to film these incidents unfolding at public schools in Sao Paulo. Under 20 years of the PSDV's rule, we have faced humiliation in the public education sector. There is poor structure in classrooms, and to add insult to injury, teachers are not well paid.
After 6 failed attempts, conservative parliamentarians are finally broaching the issue at Congress. If the proposed initiative is concretized, its constitutionality could be legally contested at the level of Supreme Court.
Peru's public prosecutor has opened an investigation on former President Alan Garcia for alleged money laundering linked to the Odebrecht scandal. Garcia has been questioned at the public prosecutor offices for the Lima Metro case, in which Odebrecht delivered around $24 million in bribes. The former president has been banned from leaving the country.
Once again, former President Alan Garcia went to the prosecutor's office to be questioned, but this time it wasn't as a witness, it was as a suspect.
There has been no questioning, because once again, it was suspended. Nothing else. Thank you.
Garcia is being investigated over government concessions to Odebrecht for the metro construction project, in which he allegedly took bribes from the company. Odebrecht's executives even admitted to paying $24 million in bribes.
Garcia not only showed interest in selecting trusted officials to work in the ministry so they could facilitate the project, but he was also directing things behind the scenes to favor Odebrecht with Lima's metro.
The former anti-corruption ombudsman investigated the case and alleged that Odebrecht paid off Garcia.
One of the ways they received bribes was by making them look legitimate, by taking off percentages of real payments and then fabricating receipts, making it all look legal.
Although Garcia denies any knowledge of bribes at his level, which 85% of Peruvians don't believe according to polls, he admits mid-level staff may have been imprisoned for bribery.
They have all been linked to corruption. There is clear evidence he's dirty.
Throw him in jail. It's as simple as that. That's what he deserves for how much he hurt our country.
The prosecutor's office has asked the judiciary to ban him from leaving the country so he doesn't escape justice.
Zimbabwe's opposition party has insisted that the government is responsible for 6 deaths, which occurred during post-election protests in August. Presidential spokesperson of the opposition movement for democratic change, Dr. Nkululeko Sibanda, spoke to Telesur in an exclusive interview.
To show you that the violence, the killing was carried out by state security agents, by the military and people associated with ZANU-PF. This evidence is available in video form. It's available in terms of testimony from people who could witness. It's available any form you like. So even the fact that you have a commission of inquiry is ludicrous in the sense that we do know who would have instructed or commanded the soldiers to go onto the streets.
Members of the opposition economic freedom fighters have marched in the South African capital city of Pretoria to protest against what they call abuse of workers by companies in the city's industrial area. The Roseland area is the city's main industrial hub and houses plants for major multinational corporations such as Coca-Cola, BMW, and Nissan Motors. The complaints include low wages and racial discrimination. At least 40 Palestinians have been injured in renewed protests along the Israeli border in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Ministry of Health said 30 of those hospitalized have injuries caused by live ammunition, while the rest have been hospitalized due to tear gas inhalation. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. French ambulance workers have blocked the Champs-Élysées in Paris to protest against reforms to the financing of medical transportation. Individual patients no longer have the right to choose which ambulance servants to use. Under the reforms, which came into effect last month, this will now be determined by hospitals and clinics. Workers say their working conditions will get worse. Dozens of people have rallied in Dublin against the presence of U.S. military bases in Ireland. The Republic of Ireland has an official policy of neutrality and avoids involvement in foreign wars or military alliances like NATO. Protesters accuse the Irish government of violating this policy by allowing a U.S. military base at Shannon Airport.
Irish neutrality is extremely important, not only for Ireland, but also to set an example for the rest of the world that humanity does not want to engage in these wars and these militarization.
Protests have taken place against the former advisor to President Donald Trump, invited to speak at the Oxford Union Society. A decision to invite Stephen Bannon by the University Debating Society was met with fierce opposition from student groups who tried to prevent people from entering. Bannon did speak at the union and defended some of his policies during his time in the White House.
I despise Steve Bannon and what he stands for, but I believe we have to give people a right to speak. How is the media going to see a bunch of students protesting, shouting slogans in a violent manner, preventing entry? It's going to be seen to empower the far right because they're saying this is what they're resisting. The intolerance is on both sides. Bannon is intolerant and the students are intolerant.
And U.S. President Donald Trump says he has answered written questions from Special Counsel Robert Mueller, but has not yet submitted them. Trump made the revelation while speaking to reporters in the Oval Office. He says while he answered Mueller's questions very easily this week, he would exercise caution. The president did not indicate when he would hand over the answers to Mueller, who is investigating Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. election.
These members have reached a bipartisan agreement.
And now it's time to bring you more news from around the world.
An Indonesian woman has been sentenced to 6 months in prison after exposing her boss' infidelity. In a turn of events, the Supreme Court overturned an earlier decision by a court to clear Baik Nuril Maknun of any wrongdoing. She is accused of breaking a law against spreading indecent material. The case in question dates back to 2012 when she recorded a conversation with the principal of the school where she worked, who spoke of explicitly about an affair with a colleague. The Chinese president is in Papua New Guinea. attending the handover ceremony of the Chinese-assisted Independence Boulevard. Xi Jinping, along with Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, were at the ceremony of the new infrastructure project that will enable locals to travel more efficiently. President Xi also attended the opening of the Butaka Academy, funded by China. It's made up of a kindergarten, a primary school, and a secondary school for over 3,000 students.
I'd like to say thank you to the Chinese government, because I've been teaching in this school for 5 years. My old school, Butuka Primary, which was in a desert. And I want to take this opportunity and privilege to thank the Chinese government for blessing us with this wonderful school. And we are proud, thank you, to be partner and friends to China.
Hundreds of Israeli settlers have taken to the streets of Tel Aviv to protest against the government ceasefire with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Protesters blocked the roads and burned tires for the third day in a row. Israel and Hamas agreed to a 72-hour ceasefire after months of violence which began in July. Gaza's Ministry of Health claims that over 1,400 Palestinians have been killed and over 8,000 wounded. 64 Israelis, mostly soldiers, have died since the Gaza onslaught.
And today we end in Cuba, as Havana is celebrating the 499th anniversary of its founding. Considered one of the most historic and charming cities in Latin America and the Caribbean, a highlight of these celebrations is the chiming of the historic Havana Cathedral bells after decades of silence. The cathedral's bells were finally unveiled after undergoing a meticulous restoration process.
Como signo de acción de gracias.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.